I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I loved most, she had so much soul. Hey everybody, it's Old School Heart back with another Where My Girls video at. Do me a favor, if you are not a subscriber to this channel, go ahead, hit that subscription button down below so that you're notified when I drop new videos. Also, thumbs up this video. And the most important thing that you can do, because we are talking about missing black girls, is share these videos. Share them to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, so that these stories can stay alive, so that the possibility of finding these young black women will be a reality and not something that we continuously talk about, that we actually get some really good results. And so if you could share it, please do so. This is episode 10 of Where My Girls At. We have done 9 videos of missing black girls, and there are so many more to do. There's so much more to do, but I thank the few of you who have been watching these videos. I thank you so much for watching them. I thank you so much for engaging with me in these stories. We're only at the beginning. We're just starting off. There's so much more that I have in store for you later on in the year. And so I'm excited to have purpose. I'm excited to contribute the little that I can to telling these young women's stories. And so just stay tuned. Stay tuned. Today it's going to be very, very quick. I just want to talk about 5 things that I have learned from researching and telling these stories, these missing black girl stories on the series Where My Girls At. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Please make sure to leave a comment on any of the points that I make, some things that you have found interesting on episodes 1 through 9. What story touched you the most? I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I'm intrigued more so to hear what you have to say. And so let's get into today's episode 10 of Where My Girls At. Okay, so guys, I have to say that I did not think that I would have continued Where My Girls At. I thought it was just going to be something that I contributed to Women's History Month. That was why I did it, because March is Women's History Month. For Black History Month this year, every day I posted a short video of black people that you may not know of. I gave a quick 1 to 2 minute history lesson on some of the things that I thought that you wouldn't know or know about black people. And so once I completed that February 28th, I said, how can I top this? How can I continue to, make a stamp and do something that's influential that people will remember? Because that is my purpose, is to always give you something to think on, to have conversations about. And so it was really important for me to continue on what I started when I started Black History Month. And so March was next, of course, and March is Women's History Month. And I didn't want to do women's history like I did Black history. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to have an impact. The little that I had, I wanted to have an impact on that month. But I did not know it was going to transform my life. I did not know that these stories would stay with me. I did not know that passion would come from all of this. And there are so many things that I wish I could tell you right now that I'm working on, but I know it's important for me to do the work first before I put it out there. And so Where My Girls At, has taken off, and I've just continued since March on just telling these stories. And there are so many more girl stories to tell. There's so much more to add to the conversation, and I want to make a difference. Okay, so let's get into the first lesson that I learned while doing these episodes of Where My Girls At. The first lesson is going to be about parents being hesitant to call the police, and why we see that more so in the black community in missing girl cases than you do in the white community. Now, a lot of people have scrutinized certain parents because they did not immediately inform the police that their child was missing. When I did episode 1 with Relisha Rudd, and even if you look at the episode with Diamond and Tianda Bradley, you'll see that the parents didn't immediately call the police, or even when they did eventually call the police, they were very, very reluctant on communicating with them, giving them information. Some of them lawyered up very, very quickly. And I know a lot of times when we look on the outside, we scrutinize these parents because we're like, why are you unwilling to cooperate? And not only that, why did you not jump to the aid of the police when you have a missing child? Why didn't you do that? And I think that we don't realize what these parents are up against. And one of the reasons why some of these parents are very reluctant on informing the police of their missing child is because they have other children. And one of the things that I found when researching these missing black girls and their families is when other children are involved and you have a missing child, you don't want the other kids to possibly be taken away. And that was the case with Relisha Rudd's mother in particular. If you go back to that story, what you'll find is that Relisha Rudd was in a homeless shelter when she went missing. And so if you're a child and you're already, and as a mother, if you're already battling homelessness, or if you are already battling issues, a lot of times you're going to already have a file created with Child and Family Services. And so I think with Relisha's mom, she was very hesitant because her kids could possibly be taken away, not only because she was already battling homelessness, but now she has a missing child that she did not immediately report. And so a lot of times what you'll find is that the parents will try their best to find the child themselves, or they'll try to look and get family members involved to look and help them before they call the cops, so that they can protect the other kids that they have in the home. And that was also the case with Diamond and Tianda. She had 2 other sisters they had 2 other sisters. And when you already have a file created with DCFS, one more thing can mean that the other children are gone. And of course, you don't want one missing child and then the others taken. And so be very, very careful how you scrutinize or what you think is right and wrong when you deal with parents who have missing children. Try to be as compassionate as possible because you don't know the reason why they may have been reluctant. A lot of the time it most definitely has to do with keeping the other kids in their care and not necessarily trying to cover up information. That's not necessarily the case in most of the cases with missing children. You do find that the parents, particularly the mothers, have nothing to do with the disappearance of their child. That's very, very rare. And so just keep that in mind when you hear these stories or when you hear of other missing child stories. Now, the second thing that I learned from doing Where My Girl's At is the police's identification, or police identifying the child as missing versus runaway. In our community, I found with a lot of these missing black girls is the police being very, very reluctant to say that these people were missing. to put that label on the kid. And when police are reluctant to put missing on a missing black girl, that means that a lot of times media will not pick up the story until they change their position to actual missing. If they label the missing black girl as runaway, a lot of the media won't pick it up because it's not necessarily a story. And we know that if there's not a lot of traction in the beginning, it's going to be harder for the missing girl to be found. It's going to be harder for people to remember the face of that person, or remember seeing them, or remember what time it is they saw them, or where they were, or any of that information. The more that time lapses and the media doesn't have attention of the missing child, the less likely it is that the child will be found or the girl will be found. And so a lot of these stories, you see a lot of scrutiny from the police departments because they will not move these stories, these cases further, and will not move these girls from runaway to missing. And the last story that I did in particular, I really talked about that because the same time that that young girl went missing, and I cannot think of her name right now. I do apologize. I'll link her name below. But when that girl went missing, a month later, Elizabeth Smart, and you see how easy that was for me to say Elizabeth Smart, because the media had already went into a frenzy when Elizabeth Smart disappeared. And went missing. And so it's so easy to know her name and not remember the young black girl's name. That's how it goes, you know. A month later, when Elizabeth Smart went missing, the media, you know, picked up the story very, very quickly, and we see the results of what happened. Elizabeth Smart was found. She's found. She's an adult now. She has a bestseller book, interviews, and different things like that. But think if that black girl from Wisconsin had gotten that attention, had received that attention, that media attention, that she wasn't a runaway, that she really was a missing child, then the story would have been picked up. And so there's always this battle with the police about missing versus runaway. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's not a big representation of black police officers and investigators in these small towns where these children and girls go missing. And so with our culture, it's easy to detect when somebody is missing and when somebody is a runaway. We know, you know, we know our children. We know what they're doing. I can't think of the one girl that I did, but she went away around Christmas. And they were just saying, well, you know, maybe she's a runaway. Maybe, you know, she was going to come back. But like her family was trying to articulate, she wouldn't be going around the holidays. That's just not something our culture does. We know in our black culture, even if you don't celebrate, if you're a Muslim or whatever, my father's a Muslim and he doesn't celebrate the holidays, but he will be there for family traditional events. And so the fact that they had to pretty much make the police officer move a little heavily says a lot about the police, a lot about what they know about black culture, a lot about what they know about black families and black women in particular. And so that's why you see a lot more missing black girls and boys actually on social media, people getting out the word, sharing on Facebook, sharing on Twitter, sharing on Instagram, so that the traction starts immediately and you can have a face, you can have a name, and if you see it or if you hear something, you're immediately alerted and you're able to communicate with the authorities about what you've seen and different things like that. Okay, the third thing that I learned from doing these videos on missing Black girls is how expensive it is when your child goes missing. I don't think that people understand the amount of money that is put in finding or aiding in finding or locating a missing person or a missing child. Now, there is contribution from the state. There is contribution from different organizations. They come up with money. There is contribution from federal. There's a contribution from a lot of, different places trying to get people engaged and involved in helping find a missing person. So there is funding for that. But the families usually have to invest a lot of money themselves in finding or aiding in finding their missing loved ones. In particular, if you look back at Phoenix Colden, who I did, you find that they tried to follow every lead that they received on Phoenix. Every lead that came up, they invested in. And unfortunately, because they invested so heavily in searching for Phoenix Colden, they lost their home. Their home was foreclosed on. Unfortunately, just following leads that went to nowhere. And you see that quite often with these families, that they lose quite a deal of money because they're investing themselves in locating. While police move the cases from being heavily searched to basically, going back down to a minimal level of investigation and searching, the parents are still at a high level of searching. They're still trying their best to find their loved ones. And so they may hire their own private investigator that is very, very expensive. They may hire a psychic. They might hire a number of people to help them in that. And that costs money. And unfortunately, a lot of them have went through financial constraints. A lot of them have lost a lot of time and money in trying to find their loved ones. And unfortunately, a lot of them have lost quite a deal. And that'll bring me to 4, actually, is family toll. The toll that it takes on your missing child. The toll it takes on a child missing is so hard on the family. The last episode that I did with that young girl from Milwaukee, there was a lot of talk about her stepfather and his criminal past and whether or not he had something to do with the disappearance, even though all of the young kids that day said that they saw the girl in the playground, and they saw her after and before school. They saw her crossing the street with the dad and him going home. Still, there were accusations that were made that he was the one who took the young girl, that he had something to do with it. And unfortunately, the relationship that may have been difficult in some areas, but after the child went missing, the situation between the stepfather and the mom just did not do very well. And I remember telling you guys in that story in particular that he had pointed a gun at her and threatened the mom. after that young girl had been missing for like a year, and they had arguments and different things like that. And then February of this year, that stepfather pretty much overdosed and died. And he's just an example. Phoenix Colden's family, like I said, they lost their home. But, you know, Diamond and Tianda's mom, you know, she had a lot of scrutiny on her, a lot of criticism on her. And for a very long time, she wasn't as vocal. She is very vocal now, but she was not as vocal back then because, you know, she's two of her children are gone. Missing children cause financial strain and depression. A lot of mothers feel like it's their fault that their child is missing. They blame themselves for it. There's a lot that goes on from missing children. You know, you're following every lead. You're not getting any sleep. You're trying to figure out where you went wrong, where you went right. And it just causes a lot of pain and strife. And of course, this is something that we all know, but I just wanted to pay attention to that, or bring attention to the fact that a lot of these people have went through a lot. They've lost a lot. You know, foreclosed on homes, been depressed, not eaten, had mental health challenges, overdosed, divorced. Those are all things that can happen as a result of a child missing, especially as the years go on. And the very last thing that I want to talk about that I think is so very important to talk to just your kids in general, but especially with these young girls, because I do Black women, missing women videos, is communication. I didn't realize how easy it is for me to not inform people of who I'm around. Business. What we've seen with a lot of these, with these older women in particular, is that it's so important for somebody to know who the men are that you're talking to, where you're going, who you're going with, how long you're going to be there. Somebody has to know something. So that if something does happen where you're gone for a couple of hours and have not responded to texts and different things like that, there is somebody that can say, this person is with Charles. Charles lives on 180th in Winchester. Charles drives a black Chevy. His mom lives in blah, blah, blah. He works at Walmart. He knows this. I think sometimes we don't understand the power of information, the power of informing. And I think from doing these videos, it has helped me to realize that I need to make sure someone knows something. If I go out on a date with somebody, my father should know whose car did I take? Where are we going? Who is this person? Where are they from? Where is, you know, as much information as possible. And so that if something does happen, they immediately have a number of information that will aid in finding me. And so it's important that if your child feels like they're not safe with you, let them know somebody needs to know something, and not to have friends that are hesitant on telling the cops who that is, what that is. They need to find friends that if something happens, their friends can go, oh, Richard lives here. She was talking to Richard at this time. Richard and her met on Facebook. All of that is so very vital. All of that. And I can't wait to share some more information about what I intend to do with what I've learned. But that is just a little bit of what I've learned from doing Where My Girls At 1 through 9 episodes. Let me know what episode stuck out to you. The few of you that watch, let me know what episode stuck out to you. Let me know what you've learned from listening to these girls' stories. What story was the most sad for you? What story do you hope has a good ending? I hope all of them have a good ending, but who's most likely do you think to be found? And in what ways can you impact or inform people about these missing girls? How do you think that we can get the information out there and keep these stories alive? So that's all I have for you. I'll be back shortly because I just heard some really deep information about some things that's happening in our culture, and so I'll be back for our cultural conversation a little bit earlier, depending on if I can get the video out there. But thank you so much for watching Where My Girls At. Thank you so much for sharing the video, liking it, leaving your comments about the different stories. I appreciate you so very much. This is Old School Heart. Have a great night. Be safe.